Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and in today's episode, Dlamini Zuma is gunning for presidency. We are one step closer, maybe, to Cape Independence, and LGBTQ plus community sets its sights on Jeffrey Dahmer series. All that and a lot more coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm in a really good mood. I'm not going to lie. I am so excited for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I think some great news has been announced. I don't want to get too excited. I don't want to get too overzealous. But today's been a good day. I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited. As the title shows, Phil Craig will be joining me at 8 p.m., ladies and gentlemen. Phil Craig will be joining on the show. Until then, we're going to hang out for an hour, ladies and gentlemen. You can ask me anything you want. We're going to chat about a few things, namely the three topics that I mentioned in the intro there. So if you're interested, stick around. It's going to be a very interesting one indeed, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into all that, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, please go to the links in the description below. Check them out. Go to my website or become a member to this channel where you get exclusive perks. Ladies and gentlemen, you can be part of an exclusive members group, or also check out the open group, the Telegram open group, where we share some interesting things. And we also talk a lot about, well, the show, and we're a cool group of people, I promise. Just go check it out. If you don't like it, you can always leave. It's not a problem. No harm done. So go check out those things, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget that you can also give a super thanks if you're watching this after the fact, after the stream is over. That'd be greatly appreciated, and it goes a long way to supporting the channel. And of course, if you're watching now, super chats, Sasa chats as we call them on this channel, are greatly appreciated. Now, with all the housekeeping in order and done, I see Gavin Comer is in the chats already. Hello, saying good evening all. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please interact, drop a message on the live chats. Don't be shy. I try and get to most of the comments if I can. If you really, 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 really want me to take notice of your comment, then drop me a Sasa chat, and I cannot ignore that. Zach, dude, how are you, man? Are you still in Cape Town, or have you left? It's sad, man. You didn't even stay long, and I wanted to meet you, and I feel like you just wham bam, thank you, ma'am. You know what I mean? But anyway. Zach, I hope safe travels if you are traveling, and keep safe. But thank you for tuning in, Zach. It's one of the first times you are on time. Andreas, I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. I'm sorry, but he says evening, and thank you so much for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk about three topics. I'm going to see how quickly we get through them. In Cape Town, flying tomorrow. Well, that doesn't help because, can't you, delay it for a day? We can meet up for coffee tomorrow, something like that, please. Anyway, hi to the family. All right, so we're going to see how quickly we're going to go through some of these things. But one thing I want to actually say to you all, because we were discussing this in my last stream. Remember how everybody was freaking out about the 24th of September? Remember that? Remember? We're alive. We made it, ladies and gentlemen. We survived the apocalypse. We're alive, and I don't know. Did anybody experience any problems with your bank? Did you experience any internet failure? I mean, obviously we had a bit of electricity cuts here because it's South Africa and there's rolling blackouts. But besides that, I mean, did anybody hear about something catastrophic that happened? Huh? I'll give you a moment to comment in the comment section. Unless it did happen. And we are all part of the matrix now. We've all been downloaded and we don't even know it, and we're sleeping somewhere where a machine is using us. Let me know. Let me know. Did you guys experience anything? Yes. Welcome to South Africa, Zach. Shame. But yeah, no, we're alive and we're good, ladies and gentlemen. And here's the thing, right? I'm actually going to show the video that was going around. I have to be careful with what I show on the channel because I don't want to get a strike or something like that. So the one thing was a WhatsApp going around with this lady saying that like the banks are gonna go like be switched off, or I don't know what the banks, like no one's gonna be able to use their card, no one's gonna be able to do transactions. I don't know what bank is gonna do what, and this like, oh, it's all gonna be ending, right? And here we are. I was able to go out for dinner on Saturday, so that wasn't a problem. I was able to do a few transactions actually, so that wasn't a problem. Then there's this guy who had a video that was going around. Let me show it to you. So I'm just gonna make myself a little bit bigger here. Okay, so yeah. Let's do that. All right, so this is like, yeah. I you can see I said this didn't age well. So
every 7 years on the.
I'm actually going to turn the volume off because I don't want any trouble from YouTube. But you guys can read at the bottom, right? So, so there he says the Shemitah. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry. It's a Jewish holiday, which, by the way, is happening. By the way, there is a Jewish holiday this weekend. I don't know if it's called that, but there is a Jewish holiday happening actually right now, and I think it ends tomorrow. But anyway, the day of the he says the day of the Jewish year. Every 7 years, there's usually a major market collapse. Okay, that's what he says. And it ends on the September 26th, which is a Monday. So, yeah. But again, today, we're still fine. But the date of the 24th is coming up. So... wait for it. It's like a whole, like, here. Apparently the German president was saying, 24th of September, something's going to happen. So this guy is in this video saying that from the 24th of September till the 26th or the 30th of September, major things are going to happen, right? But he was harping on the 24th. He's going to harp on it now. There it is. Saying that the 24th is going to be a day that... everybody will remember, blah, 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 Vatican this, Vatican that. He shows some headlines, which I'm sure have nothing to do with what's actually going on. Anyway, my point in bringing this up is everything's fine. I mean, everything's as normal can be in today's world. I mean, there's a lot of things that aren't normal, but we're not going to get into that right now. But what I'm saying is the world is still moving on. No banks collapse, no market collapse, nothing. So yeah, my point in bringing this up again is like, guys, people out there, just stop panicking when you get a WhatsApp voice note from a random person that you don't even know who says, the world's coming to an end, man. So pack your things, build shelter, go buy everything you can. I don't know why people do it. I really don't. I mean, I wish I could it should be quiet. But I don't know why people do it. Okay? Like, one day there's going to be a real problem in this world, right? Like, there's going to be a real, maybe nuclear meltdown, I don't know what. And those same people that are now would have been speaking truth, nobody's going to listen to them because you cried wolf so many times. And I don't know why people still believe this crap. You know? It's always like on some weird holiday that almost nobody knows about except for the people that are in that religion that know about it. You know? But anyway, it really, you know, I was laughing the whole day on Saturday. I'm laughing now. So yeah. Zach saying, wish I could stay longer, but got business to sort out in New York, and then 1 month without my family until election's over. Load shedding is weird. Yeah. Listen, if you're going to move back to South Africa, you need to make sure that you have solar power or at least an inverter, okay? UPS, something like that. If you can get off the grid, even better. But yeah, you coming home with the dollars. And right now it's 18 Rand to $1, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God. So Zach is balling at the moment. He basically came on this trip with $10. That's and he's got like millions. So yeah. Well done, Zach. You actually picked a good time to come because the dollar is so strong. That's gonna really stretch out, my friend. Not that cold here. It was a bit cold today. I think it was, when was it? It was last week Thursday, I think, or Wednesday. It was quite warm. Yeah, it was last week Wednesday. It was like 27 degrees. Quite warm. But it's been a bit cool, yeah. All right. So, other than that, ladies and gentlemen, we're alive. We're well. I hope everybody's doing well. I really do. And moving on to some other news. I don't know anymore with this stuff. Injustice. Dlamini Zuma wants ANC step-aside rule to be amended at party's December conference. Okay, so let me get this straight, right? Actually, I don't need to get this straight. I'll just tell you what she wants, okay? I'm going to skip all this blah, 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 blah stuff, all right? And get right to the nitty-gritty of it all, okay? So, all right. What she is saying is the problem with the step aside is that you are charged, okay, and then you step aside. Okay, cool. Then we all are clear on that one, right? But 3 years on, you are still waiting years for the trial to start. For me, that is injustice. I am saying justice must be done. Why do you arrest first and investigate for 3 years? I know why. By the time you arrest, you must be sure there is a case to answer. So the person is cleared or found guilty. I think the conference should look at this issue. As it stands, it is not right as it is being implemented. And look, I do on some level agree with her, but, and it's a big but, like a huge but, okay? This is just BS coming out of her mouth, right? She doesn't really care. Her husband's like being, I don't know, taken in and out of court. Ex-husband, sorry. Being taken in and out of court. I don't know how many times delaying things, using tactics. He's sick, he's not sick. You know, I don't know what the hell's going on there. Look, the step aside thing, the reason why they're taking so long to get to the bottom of it is because you're all corrupt. The ANC is all corrupt. They're paying off, I don't know what, dockets are going missing, evidence is going missing. They're just taking their time paying off people. Come on, man. We're not stupid, okay? We're not stupid, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I don't think any of us are going to fall for her little, patriotic speech there. I mean, even today, I saw a headline where even the media is starting to finally catch up. I mean, like it's not something to be totally excited about, but because I mean it's News 24 and they're late to the party, but SA is a hotbed of organized crime. They're finally trying to say that the South Africa is a mafia state, right? And yeah, I'm not gonna give them the satisfaction, but welcome to the party, News 24. We've known this for a very long time. But this is my point. It is a mafia state because what is going on is politicians just paying people off, right? They get step-aside orders. They get step-aside orders so that you think something is happening, but meanwhile, no. I mean, like, what's his name? Was it Ace Magashule, who got suspended, step-aside order, but he's still getting paid salary, right? What the hell? So yeah. Let's see. I'm used to 31 to 35. Me too. Inverter, solar, and generator combo found a place. Nice. Sea Point. Okay, it's a little bit far from me, but I'll travel and meet you. It's actually not that far. Yeah. It's not that far. Ainsworth cannot pay their councillors and staff. Yeah, no. They only pay their ministers. They pay Ace Magashule and all those other people, but they won't pay anybody else. Well, maybe, but South Africa is a lot worse, my friend. So trust me, when you move back, you'll see what I mean. Although you're moving to Cape Town, so you might not see it as bad. But yeah, and I got news on Cape Town. So anyway, back to NDZ. Please, let's not be fooled, okay? She's running for presidency. If she gets, I don't know, approval, or what did she say here? I can't, she was like, at the beginning of the article, she's like, I felt bad that I lost. Oh, you felt bad that you lost because you couldn't steal everything. That's why. So, anyway, I don't know. There's a thing here, possible. Oh, here we go. As one of the possible contenders for the ANC leadership, Dr. Dlamini Zuma, does not believe the party is strong as it should be. Oh, well done. Blah blah blah. She hopes the party conference is. Where is it that I saw? I don't know. It's not a done deal that she is going to. Oh, there it is. Dlamini Zuma was nominated ANC president in her second attempt to lead the party. And lost out narrowly. Blah blah. While referencing. Okay. I don't know. It's somewhere here in this article. I don't know where exactly it is. They state that she's not officially running. I don't know. There's some kind of approval thing that needs to go through. But anyway, just thought I'd chat about that. So yeah. I'm going to get to the Cape Town news a bit later. It's going to be my last headline or news to talk about. But before, I'm going to get... some people are not going to like what I'm going to say right now. Specifically, the LGBTQ plus community. Because, I mean, come on, guys. Okay, like, first off, let me just say a disclaimer, okay? I don't care what your sexual preference is. Okay, it's not about this. It's not about that, what I'm going to go into right now. I don't care. But I just saw something today. Because I'm busy watching the Netflix series Jeffrey Dahmer. Okay? Now, just in case there are people, and this is not a spoiler. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm just going to, you can Google this if you want to. Jeffrey Dahmer was, he was into men. Okay? It's fact. He admits it himself in confession tapings and when he was interviewed by the police. Look, this guy, I mean, there's a lot to the story and I'm not going to get into all of it. But he was, and I want to be careful with what I say here because I don't want it to be misconstrued. So I am not saying that all members of the LGBTQ community are like this. I am saying that Jeffrey Dahmer, specifically him, was a killer because of his life experiences that he went through, it is understandable why that specific person, Jeffrey Dahmer, was the way he was. And it definitely doesn't excuse what he did at all. And I do not believe that every member of the LGBTQ community is like him. But this is what the LGBTQ community is kind of arguing. Netflix hit with backlash after tagging Jeffrey Dahmer's series as LGBTQ, despite Jeffrey Dahmer being gay. This is not the representation we want. And there lies the part that I just don't understand. Okay, look. There's a lot of straight, cisgender, whatever you want to call it, serial killers. All right. I don't get bent out of shape because I feel misrepresented. Okay. A serial killer, there's loads of them in this world that have been caught, that are still alive. So be it. And they all have gone through a lot of crap. All right. Let me tell you something. Jeffrey Dahmer is not the only homosexual serial killer. Just in case you didn't know that. I just can't believe this. It's weird to me that this LGBTQ plus community has a problem with this. I mean, we this is not. It's not like Netflix changed the story. I actually Googled the story just to refresh my memory, and Netflix has actually got it quite close. As a matter of fact, I think in some instances Netflix is very respectful of how things turned out. I mean, this guy did far worse things. If you Google on Wikipedia and read about all the things that he's done, Netflix didn't include quite a bit. Apparently, so Netflix has been criticized after viewers noticed its gruesome new Jeffrey Dahmer series was given an LGBTQ tag by the streaming service. So they're upset that Netflix tagged Jeffrey Dahmer, the series, in an LGBTQ category. They don't want that to be, I don't know, in their category. But there is a lot of homosexual content in that in the thing. I mean, he was homosexual himself. I don't think that Netflix did anything wrong. I don't think Netflix was trying to offend the community. But I mean, apparently a TikTok user posted a clip of the series as it appeared on Netflix with the tags ominous psychological horror LGBTQ. They questioned why Netflix made the decision to tag the content and that this is not the representation we are looking for. One person commented on the video saying Netflix may have done it as it was something that greatly impacted the LGBT community, which, yeah, it did. And wonderful that it might be educational. Wondered if it might be educational purposes. Look, and now people are getting bent out of shape. Like, imagine clicking on this category and this is what you get. There's going to be other content. You don't have to watch that. I mean, come on, guys. Man. Put on that Dahmer I mean, this is what I don't understand, right? So like like I said, there were black serial killers. There's white serial killers. There's a lot of different types of serial killers. And even if you tag them racially, I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, they're not lying. And to be fair, right? The series does not, in my personal opinion, does not attack that community in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, it's actually very true to what things were in the 90s, and it was very polite and respectful to the victims. I mean, there was a homosexual that caught him. Like, he's the hero, in a way, of the story, right? And, like, they seem to, like, overlook that. And I'm like, guys, like, this is what happened. I mean, it had a lot to do with the LGBTQ community, because all of them, I think, Jeffrey Dahmer's, well, not all of them, most of them were homosexual. Those were his victims. And before anyone starts thinking that he hated homosexuals, no, he didn't, as a matter of fact. But again, I'm not going to spoil it for you. You can either Google it or watch the series, and you'll see. I don't know. I just don't think the backlash is necessary. I think it's a great series. I think there's a lot of snowflakes that are whining about something that is a mute conversation. I wouldn't be offended if I don't know, there was a documentary on a serial killer and they put it in, I don't know, American or Mexican or whatever, South African, a tag on it or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just being like, okay, cool. It's for South Africans. It's for this group of people to find it easier, I guess. If you search that, one of these things is going to pop up. It's really not, not a problem. Anyway, but that's my opinion. And I'm sure some of the LGBTQ community might come after me now because I'm saying, I don't see the big deal. But hey, I mean, I'm entitled to my own opinion, unless it's, yeah. But I'm entitled to my own opinion, guys. And yeah, I stand by it. And like I said, maybe some of y'all should watch the series and see how respectful that series is towards the victims. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say on this topic, and we will go to the last bit of news, ladies and gentlemen, that I am very excited about as we end the first half of the first half, if I can put it that way. We are a quarter way through the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is 7:30 on my watch. So don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, to please like and share the stream if you're enjoying it, and become a member. Please become a member and get part of those great perks, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're feeling generous, don't forget the Sasa Chats. It would be greatly appreciated, ladies and gentlemen. Even Cyril Ramasaurus is asking for Sasa Chats. It would be greatly appreciated. And don't forget, if you haven't yet, please subscribe and leave a like as well. Greatly appreciated, ladies and gentlemen. So, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, please join the Telegram group if you haven't yet. It's an open group. There's a lot of fun on there, just announcements and things to talk about. So, yeah, let's all have some fun on that. There are rules to the group, but they are nice rules, if I can put it that way. So yeah, join us there, ladies and gentlemen, and get direct access to me and other people from the channel. And yeah, I see the crazies are talking secession again. That's a bit rude, man. But you might change your opinion in a moment. Well, actually, I don't think you will. But thanks for tuning in, Matthew. Matthew is like my most loyal troll. It's amazing. I've never had such a loyal troll before. I don't think Matthew Dixon is your real name. I really don't. I don't even think that's your real picture. But I'm just speculating. I could be very wrong. I could be very, very wrong. Joe Donner says, Cape Independence. Let's go. All right. So, yeah. Nice. You go do that American duty, my friend. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for possibly, I wouldn't say the best news for Cape Independence, but it's definitely really good news. Simply because this is going to be one of the things we're going to talk about with Phil Craig. So I'm not going to go into too much detail right now, but I do want to share it with you because it's phenomenal news. It counts for something, and I think it is a step in the right direction. Definitely a step closer, I would say. So, ladies and gentlemen, feast your eyes on this news. Let's see, I'm not in the way. Cool. Western Cape Devolution Working Group formed. Bum-ba-da-bum. Political parties, civic organizations, and legal experts join forces to fight for Western Cape autonomy, devolved policing power, and provincial referendum legislation will be initial focus. I think that is a very important keyword. Initial, beginning. That is the first step, right? Now, some of you might be wondering, like, oh, that's just devolution, right? Like, devolution means, where, so like, federal state, we basically, we want devolution. But devolution can have a few meanings, and I'm going to talk to Phil Craig about that. So stick around for that. We're going to talk about this. And at the moment, the people involved in this group are the DA, Democratic Alliance, Freedom Front Plus, ACDP, Cape Independence Party. Those are the parties, the political parties that are involved. Then you have your civic organizations such as Action Society. And then you have the lobbying group, Cape Independence Advocacy Group, also involved. You have a civil society group, AfriForum, SAAI, SAAI. I think it's the South African Agriculture. I think. Wait, hold on. It's listed here somewhere. Was here. Okay, they just say SAAI. But, and of course, COPSA Cape Forum are also on the group. Now, obviously, the political parties will do their political thing where they add political pressure, but I can tell you that I already know Action Society is definitely gunning for the devolution of the police. That's where a lot of their weight is going to go into. Cape Independence, obviously, doing their thing. And AfriForum, SAAI, and Cape Forum, I'm not sure how they can, or what exactly they will be involved in and where they'll put their weight. Probably also the police and protecting property rights and agriculture. I do know that the DA is gunning for control of the railways, control of tax, and control of the police as well. So the Western Cape will control its own police, rails, and tax. That's what they're gunning for, which I think also Cape Forum is also gunning for that. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I will chat with Phil Craig about all this and a lot more coming up in the show. As a matter of fact, let me show you. Phil Craig himself actually mentioned what we're going to talk about. This is very Nice of him to do so. Um, Let me just find that tweet very quickly. All right, here it is. So, Phil tweeting earlier, mentioning some of the topics we're going to talk about. He says, we will chat about Western Cape Devolution Working Group, the referendum legislation, ladies and gentlemen, which is basically the referendum that was given to Alan Winde in March. And so we're going to get an update on that. And Western Cape Self-Determination Bill, which will be coming shortly, one way or another. It sounds very juicy, ladies and gentlemen. So a lot to talk about coming up in about 20 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Phil Craig will be joining me on the show. We'll be chatting about all of this and possibly a lot more. It's very exciting times. Yeah, I think that this is really good news. Really, really good news to have these people involved. I mean, this throws so much weight behind the Cape Independence movement. I have a feeling that here's my prediction. Okay, we all know. Okay, wait, hold on. Robert's saying Cape Forum has made police devolution a key focus of their organization from the start. Okay, good. That would make sense. So they're also going to help with that. That's good. So my theory is this. We all know that South Africa is unfortunately falling apart due to our lovely ANC government. And I think everyone, who has been in South Africa for the past 2 weeks has witnessed the beginning of it. Maybe the beginning started years ago. But right now, it's getting really bad. Stage 6 load shedding, and now it's gone down to stage 3, I think, or stage 4 in some areas. But still, the past 2 weeks have been absolutely horrible for South Africans with this load shedding. And I think it's caused a lot of people to wake up a bit. And I have a theory, especially after watching JW... How can I forget his... Johnson. R.W. Johnson, sorry. After watching R.W. Johnson on a podcast, shout out to David Ansara, by the way. Go check out his podcast, Solutions with David Ansara. He had R.W. Johnson, and towards the end of the interview, David asks him about the Cape Independence movement, and R.W. said something very interesting, and I really didn't think about it. But he explained how the DA is busy making arrangements to take control, as I mentioned earlier, of the rail, the police. I mean, Cape Town opened its own stock market not too long ago. There are certain things that are in motion at the moment for Cape Town or Western Cape to have control over, and the DA is fighting hard to get even more control. I know that the DA is also fighting for tax, basically to control the tax, and not give all of it to the ANC. So R.W. Johnson added on to that, saying that perhaps in the event that state failure does happen, the DA is just getting ready for the inevitable, so that when state failure does happen, they don't necessarily have to ask for secession because it would have already happened. I'm paraphrasing very heavily on what he said, but that's what he implied for sure. And I think there's some truth to that from what we're seeing now with this devolution working group. I think that one way or another, the Western Cape is preparing to save itself from what could be an inevitable point of no return. If the ANC remains in power in 2024, there is no doubt that by the time 2029 comes around, there will be no South Africa to save, and perhaps the Western Cape is just preparing itself for the inevitable, which is the collapse of South Africa. And I think that basically, whether those like it or not, the Western Cape will be on its own. And I think the Western Cape is just getting prepared for that. And this is definitely a step in the right direction to make sure that that does happen. I mean, once you get police, once you get the tax, once you get, the rails, and Western Cape starts becoming a very profitable province of South Africa, yes, a lot of people are going to move here, but at the same time, the economy is going to grow. You're going to get a lot of businesses that are going to want to invest in the Western Cape. And again, your economy starts growing even more. Jobs become more accessible. Your poverty levels start declining. And Western Cape becomes quite powerful. And it shifts the economic hub from Johannesburg to Cape Town. Now, of course, Johannesburg is quite the powerhouse. I'm not saying that Cape Town is anywhere near it at the moment, but at the rate that it keeps going, who knows? Maybe Cape Town will overtake the Johannesburg economic levels. So yeah, and even Gavin agrees with me. Our beloved ANC is imploding, and it is. It most certainly is. And I think all these organizations, AfriForum, PSI, COP, Action Society, Cape Independence Advocacy Group, Cape Independence Party, ACGP, Freedom Front Plus, and the DA, they all see the writing on the wall. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation in about 15 minutes with Phil Craig, so please do stick around. It's going to be a lot of fun and interesting times to chat to Phil about what is going to happen. All right, so let's get to some of the comments that I may have missed out on. Let's see, Matthew, being a troll as usual. Cape Independence and their supporters should just go occupy Robben Island and stay there. Give them a trial run. Yeah, okay, Matthew. Always. We'll see how you feel when it does happen. Hey, man, no one's forcing. By the way, no one's forcing you to stay here. By all means, go to Eastern Cape or Gauteng. You live in Cape Town, don't you? Yeah. If you don't think it's going to happen, then leave, man. When groups like CIJ, many of our critics laughed at us, they aren't laughing now. No, they're still laughing. You can see Matthew's laughing a lot. I mean, here he is. 65% income tax coming to Western Cape residents. So, yeah, he's laughing. I'm investing in the Western Cape in a wall. On the N1 and N2. Seal it off. Zach for president, ladies and gentlemen. So Western Cape generates 660 odd billion annual in income. I know what that stands for, but I forgot now. But anyway, invite Chris Sky on your show. Who the hell is Chris Sky? Nafam, I live in Pretoria. Ah, okay, so you're just jealous. I thought you lived in Cape Town, Matthew, because you said you're going to join me on my hike and stuff. Oh, thank goodness you don't stay here. Now I feel even better. Nah, it's fine. Stay in Pretoria, man. Yeah, you're doing fine over there, man. Right? You know, is it 4-hour load shedding or whatever? No, you're good, man. You're good. Cape Town though doesn't. While Cape Town is on less load shedding, you get the full load shedding. But hey, yeah. You're doing okay over there, Matthew. Stay there. Well done. But yeah, yeah, exactly. I need to seal you off. Parts of woke Twitter was having a meltdown today over the announcement. Of course, Of course, of course. Oh my word, they would have freaked out because it's all the organizations, by the way, that they hate, right? I mean, they really, really hate. Um, I don't think there's anyone on here. They hate Action Society somewhat. So some of them hate Ian Cameron specifically. Um, they hate the DA. They hate Freedom Front Plus. They hate ACDP. They hate the Cape Independence Party. They hate AfriForum. So that means they also hate Cups Cape. And I don't know about Psy. I don't know if they hate Psy. They probably do. They do now. um, so yeah. Um, so yeah. Um, I I'm not surprised, Rob. I'm not surprised that the woke Twitter. But again, like you know what's interesting about woke Twitter is they scream so loud, right? But they're only loud on Twitter. Like what I've noticed, and this might be a bit of a problem for Cape Independence, but I think over time it might change. When I speak to people about Cape Independence, a lot of them have heard of it, and I wouldn't say that they think the movement is racist or anything like that. That's not. They just don't know enough about it. They're like, oh yeah, is that really happening? Is that gonna happen? Oh no, it's probably not gonna happen. And then I asked them like, what do you know about it? And they're like, oh, we don't know too much. Just like I saw a headline or whatever. And it's like, like that's the part that's not getting across. And I think once that comes across, and once people get the full picture, um, things will change. So yeah. Nope, they hate on what's his name, John Steenhuisen. They hate on Natasha Mazzone. They hate on nearly everyone except for, yeah, but she left. Okay, so that doesn't count. Yeah, they pretty much hate on everyone. There's a faction in the DA, just like ANC has a faction. There is a woke faction in the DA that I think the woke Twitter just ends up not talking about in a way. But they'll happily, criticize the John Steenhuisen faction, if I can put it that way, and Helen Zilla and all those others. So yeah. So yes, woke Twitter does hate all of these organizations, and it's so confusing because it's like they also don't like the ANC, but they're very careful with how they criticize the ANC because yeah. But but they are like criticizing the ANC. So it's like you guys hate everyone, you know. Come to think of it, they barely criticize the EFF, which is kind of worrying. But anyway. I don't think that's entirely true. There are two debates around Cape Independence. Should it happen? And is it possible? I think we've won the first argument. It's the second argument we still need to convince people on. Yes, I would definitely agree with that because a lot of people I talk to don't think it's possible. And it's always a fun discussion to have, but yeah. Woke Twitter is good. Funny you say that because they actually do defend the Good Party. I've seen them defend the Good Party. I mean, there's a how do I put this? I don't want people to know who I'm talking about. Let's just say there's a woke. I wouldn't say she is on Twitter a lot. She's mainly on TikTok. But she was defending good and telling people to go vote for good. She's definitely wokey. So yeah, I mean, she's in that woke group. They recently recruited her as well as another one off TikTok. Yeah. I tend and I try not to talk or mention names because I don't want to give them any more airtime. If you guys want to know who I'm talking about, you're going to have to do your own research. Some of you, I'm sure, that are listening in know who I'm talking about. But anyway, and here's the crazy part. A lot more people don't know who I'm talking about, which I'm very happy about, by the way. Like, that's what these wokies don't understand. Twitter has a very small, what's the term I'm looking for? Has a very small, what's the word? Reach? No, it's not reach. Basically, a very small percentage of the South African population is on Twitter. And it is like there's more on Facebook and Snapchat and probably TikTok and YouTube than there are on Twitter. So really, the wokes on Twitter think their voices are so loud and that it represents the entire South Africa, but it definitely doesn't. It definitely does not. So they are really blowing or shouting against the wind, really. So yeah. Yeah, okay, now we're gonna hate on Ronaldo House. Okay. I don't understand why people got so pissed off with that. Like, so what if he's got a visa to go to the States? He's free to do what he wants. Like, guys, I'm American and South African. I also have a backup plan. You're gonna turn against me, like, you know what I mean? Just chill, guys. Like, I really don't understand that one. By the way, I might have the Pod Bros on my show. Trying to organize. That's really gonna upset the wokies on Twitter once they hear about that. They probably already clipped me saying it, but I am working on getting the Pod Bros. So that's Germ, Ramon, and Ronaldo on this show, and I'm going to be indoctrinated into the Pod Bros, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I will. But anyway, no, I'm not. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll like me enough to do so. I don't know. We'll see. But first I got to organize them to be on the show. So look out for that. So yeah, Robert King saying, I know who you are talking about, but I am a Twitter actor. Exactly. If you're someone who's frequently on Twitter, you'll know who I'm talking about. But a lot of people won't know who I'm talking about because in the real world, nobody knows who these people are, which is great. It must stay that way. But anyway, I need to take a quick break because my guest is here. So we're going to take a quick little break, ladies and gentlemen. And it won't probably be 5 minutes. It'll just be a few minutes to make sure everything's set up. And I'll be right back with Phil Craig, ladies and gentlemen, from the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, as we talk about Cape Independence and all the updates, all the juicy little details that are coming out, and the future of Cape Independence, ladies and gentlemen. So please stick around. In less than 5 minutes, we'll be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's break time, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about becoming a member to this channel. So why should you become a member to this channel? It's a great question. You're gonna get a lot of exclusive perks. I mean, if I have a one-man show, for example, you're going to get up to 50% off on the tickets. You get exclusive access to the Joe Emilio Show WhatsApp group. You also get access to other things, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to know more, go to the join button at the bottom of this video to see all the information on becoming a member. At least subscribe to the channel. If you like what you're seeing so far, subscribing is always free. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to the show.
Don't wanna sleep in.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and as promised, Phil Craig has joined me from the Cape Independence Advocacy Group. Phil Craig, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Great to be back with you, Joe.
As always, man, always a pleasure. And you know, we booked off this date quite a while ago. but only announced it recently because you had a lot of cool things happening in the Cape Independence movement. And today, I mean, you dropped kind of a bombshell on everyone. I didn't even see it coming. But I did share the what's it called, the press release earlier. You will see there the Western Cape Devolution Working Group has been formed. Listen, man, you tell us all about it. What is this? What is this all about? Should we be excited? Is this one step closer to Cape independence?
Yeah, look, I think it's a very significant step. It clearly it's a devolution working group, so the focus of the group is not secession itself, but clearly the whole thing is that independence itself to a certain extent is a game of chess, and we've got to make sure we make all of the right moves. And this is significant in that we have a group of very, very powerful organisations who've got together and collectively are looking to take power away from Pretoria and deliver it to the Western Cape. Uh, and in that group are autonomists and federalists and secessionists, and we effectively agreed to set aside our differences at this point in time and focus on getting some power away from Pretoria and to the Western Cape. And collectively, we're clearly a lot stronger than we are individually. And from that point of view, it's a very, very significant step. And I think obviously, you see, you can think, the DA are very, very keen to devolve powers and have been struggling. They made a number of promises in 2019 and then again in 2021 around devolution, they've not been able to deliver on those. They're asking for control. For policing's been their main focus. They're asking for control of policing, but they're being told on a regular basis. Becky Chile has told both Alan Windy and Jordan Hill Lewis no, and then last week Cyril Ramaphosa got in the act and he also said no. So, you know, from that point of view, then this is a very, very healthy situation, and clearly policing is one of the issues that the group is going to tackle. From a secessionist point of view, clearly any doors that we open to taking power away from Pretoria and delivering to the Western Cape become significant, because once you break open that door, then and one power is devolved, then others tend to quickly follow, and we can see that historically in many places around the world. So this is significant. It's not the smoking gun. This isn't a secession group. It's one more string to our bow. It's not everything. But it's significant. And when you get organisations like the DA and the Freedom Front Plus and the ACDP and then AfriForum and Cape Forum and SAI and Action Society and ourselves, Cape Independence Party, and some legal experts as well, all coming together and sitting around a table and saying, right, how are we going to do this? Well, you can do that. And what about if we do this? And how do we help each other? And literally then planning step by step how we're going to achieve some of these ends. Clearly that's a very, very significant step, and one that everybody frankly is quite excited about. I think we've all had enough, in many ways I hope this is the start of the fight back, and I think people are I think people are becoming, dare I use the word, radicalized, and certainly willing to go a little bit further than perhaps they might have done a few years ago. So, yeah, it's positive.
Look, I do think it's a positive thing. I was mentioning before you came onto the show that it is a powerful group that you have here. This isn't just any organizations. These are very powerful, influential organizations, especially the political parties that are involved, and even the civil society group that is involved. But I wanted to ask you a few things about the working group. So firstly, I don't see Cape Exit on here. Is there a reason for that? Or were they not interested? Did they don't want to play ball? Or are they just busy doing their another, as you've mentioned before on the show, there's different with the Cape Independence movement and with what's going on. There's many different cogs in the bigger machine. So are they just maybe another cog on a different part of the machine?
Look, so Cape Exit were invited and declined to attend. They have their reasons for doing it, and obviously they're entitled to pursue those. One of the reasons that they're sharing on their platform is that they feel that devolution is let's call it a sellout, or a compromise they're not willing to take, which clearly isn't our intention. We're not settling on devolution either. I think if I can use a boxing analogy, Cape Exit perhaps want to win the fight with a knockout in the first round, and we're willing to trade punches and get a bit further into the fight. But they're obviously entitled to make their own decisions in terms of their. And I think probably we've always had a slight difference in terms of how we handle the political parties to them. From our point of view, the DA are the, for want of the better expression, the gatekeepers of Cape Independence. Only they can call a referendum, and you have to get into that political ring, and you have to work with those people, you have to fight for each inch of ground, and ultimately you'll get where you need to get. And I think if you ever want to see the perfect example of that, it's Nigel Farage and Brexit in the UK, and in many ways we often look to that campaign for inspiration from our side. Cape Exit prefer not to engage in others with others really, but that's their choice to make. I think it was the wrong choice to make, but I respect that they made that choice. They had the opportunity to be part, and they chose not to be.
Yeah, I was just curious, genuinely curious, and I think that's, like you said, fair enough. Either on or you're not, but like I said, you have a very influential group of people, or organizations rather, I should say, that are part of this group, which is very exciting. I just wanted to tell the audience that is watching, please do keep your questions coming in. I will address them towards the end of the show. I've seen a few questions already come in, and I have marked them to ask Phil at a later stage. So please do, if you have any questions, do pop them in the live chats. I do keep an eye on them. Other than that, one more thing. Psy was a group that honestly I was surprised to see. So how, because correct me if I'm wrong, but Psy is more of a agricultural kind of organization, if I can put it that way. How exactly, or what's their role in this working group, Devolution working group?
Yeah. So look, the basic tenet of the working group is that collectively we have far more authority than we have individually, because we now bring to the party the capacity to mobilize people, to bring legislation, to take court cases. And to mobilize groups of civil society. So you have to take all of those groups together, and I think clearly all of these organizations, so for example SAI represent individual farmers, and clearly farmers are deeply concerned about the future of South Africa. And I think anything that starts to offer solutions to the problems that we're facing are going to be attractive. And the Devolution Working Group has a focus on the Western Cape, but it's open to groups from outside of the Western Cape who also want to establish the precedent. And I think it's really important to understand that the value of precedent. So if we can get power away from national government and start to disempower national government and empower people, whether it's the Western Cape people, or it's the Zulu people, or it's farmers, or whoever else it may be, it's beneficial to everybody. And we've always had this view that Cape Independence is this, we're not talking about Cape Independence in the group, but Cape Independence the same, that it has a knock-on effect. And if we can create a area of the country that is stable and secure and governed better, then actually that benefits the rest of the country too, in many ways.
That sounds good. So they represent the farmers and the agriculture part of everything. And I agree with you. Again, all these organizations definitely coming together is much stronger than individually. And I can't wait to see what your working group, Devolution Working Group, will do next, or what the first thing will be, which you have mentioned is going to be the devolved policing power, and obviously referendum legislation. Those are your initial focus. And now I mentioned that initial is the key word there, because that is the beginning, what you're first focusing on. Could you give us a bit of a teaser of what you might be focusing on if you got the policing power and you got referendum legislation? What would be the next focus of the group, or have you guys not thought that far yet? You're focusing on the first thing.
No, well, look. First of all, let me say that we had our initial meeting, and the meeting took place under Chatham House rules, which basically means you can't really talk about who said what or who did what, which allows for a much more open discussion. So therefore, to a certain extent, I'm limiting what I can say. But at the end of the meeting, we agreed these two things that everybody agreed on. We were going to cooperate in terms of policing powers, and there are a number of key actions I can't talk about, but different groups are going to contribute to that. So it's going to be a coordinated effort that clearly is going to put considerable pressure on the national government around policing. And then the referendum legislation, which of course is long overdue and already promised by the DA, and there's been a renewed commitment to getting that through as a matter of urgency. And clearly, the let's say the net has been widened in terms of the groups that are involved in there, and in the working group. I mean, there are certain things on record. The DA have said they'll bring the referendum bill, and obviously published it in draft form. You've had AfriForum who've said that they are willing to take the government to court, or to Parliament to court, and force for them to pass the referendum bill. And around that, we're now looking to see action. So they're the two things that'll happen, I think, fairly quickly. It looks like we probably will have a rewording of the bill, but I think that should happen quite quickly, and all of the groups will be involved. There were some other parts to that as well that I can't really talk about, but. Those two things were priorities, and fairly urgent priorities. But the group also allowed for all parts of the group to necessarily. We don't all have to work together. So the idea is that we come together and we drive certain agendas, and perhaps some of those agendas we're all on board with. And some of those agendas were not necessarily all on board. And I think for people who followed the CIAG, we haven't been too explicit, because we haven't wanted to narrow down other people's options. Obviously, when you go out as a lobby group, as we are, and you make a really definitive statement, then you take up or take away space for other people to compromise, or to think. But if you look at the language that we've been using for the last few months, there's a word that's really come onto our vocabulary, which we didn't use an awful lot before, and that is self-determination. And we are pushing very, very hard for a self-determination bill to be brought. And in fact, the self-determination bill is going to be brought. There's just the only debate is who's going to bring it, and what's it going to say, and what's it going to be called. It probably won't be called the self-determination bill. And as an organisation, we've been lobbying quite hard for the Western Cape to claim the right to self-determination, and not necessarily in the context of secession. Or clearly, once the Western Cape claims the right to self-determination, it will be able to claim secession should it so wish. Once it sort of goes through all of the necessary steps. But interestingly enough, the right to self-determination can be exercised in four ways under international law: autonomy, federalism, secession, and unification. So one of the things that we've been pushing quite hard for all year, and one of the things we've been pushing the DA on, has been to look. You don't need to keep asking Becky Chilly if you can take control of the police. You could just claim the right to self-determination, and then when you set out how you wish to exercise your right to self-determination, you can claim the power of policing and many other things besides, including taxation and so on. And so obviously we would like to see self-determination exercised in the form of secession, but actually if we can all collaborate, then we can get the right to self-determination would benefit everybody. And at this point in time, I'm not going to name names, but there is another political party that is going to bring that bill if we don't get a wider agreement, and so that's something that we are negotiating. Look, we're in the latter stages of those negotiations, and I don't know how they're going to fall. But what I do know is we are going to see a self-determination bill in one form or another coming, and I think that will be highly, highly significant, and it would be a huge, huge step for Cape Independence. And I think our focus really over the course of this year has been the referendum legislation. which clearly we need in place to demonstrate the will of the Western Cape people, and the self determination bill, which suddenly takes away the power away from national government and vests it with the people of the Western Cape. And just for context, the right to self determination isn't something that the South African government has the right to grant or deny. It's an obligation under international law. So once we claim it, the national government has no choice. It can't say no. And in fact, were it to say no, that would be the grounds, the necessary grounds for secession. Remedial secession is the denial of self-determination. So therefore, it suits us very well to ask the national government for self-determination, and clearly the autonomists and federalists would want the national government to say yes. And grant them self-determination to have those controls. And for the secessionists amongst us, we kind of win either which way by a self-determination bill, because if the national government says yes, then we've got much greater devolved powers, and we're a step further down the road and closer to our ultimate goal. And if the national government says no, and that falls on the parliamentary record, then they have created the precise grounds for remedial secession under international law. We would still clearly need to have a Western Cape government that was willing to claim secession, and that's clearly that's something that we're going to have to work on. But there are two focus. They're the two bills.
Well, that is some interesting stuff. I feel like I'm watching a bit of Game of Thrones here. Everything that is kind of like being put into place for what might happen in the future, backup plans, moving these pawns here and there. It's very exciting times, I think. And you actually answered a question I was going to ask, what if the ANC says no to the bill? So you answered that right now. But I had another question for you, Phil. The Cape secession movement, they you mentioned earlier, Cape Exit kind of sees you going along with the whole devolution thing as a sellout move. I obviously, knowing you and speaking to you, I know that that's not the case. And I know that you used the analogy of a boxing match, and it's in a way playing the long game, and I understand that. But I think there are a few people that might feel a bit discouraged that you might be changing your tactics in a way that, if we got devolution, then Cape Independence Advocacy Group, and specifically Cape Independence Advocacy Group, might just settle for that. So let's say you guys got devolution. Would the Cape Independence Advocacy Group still push for independence?
Yes.
Okay.
Our end goal is secession. And I think clearly we have to we have to just keep moving forward. Devolution is just a step, and I think people have to understand the political environment is constantly changing, and you have to act accordingly to. And one of the huge changes that has affected really the last 12 months in South Africa was the local government elections, when the ANC fell under 50% for the first time, and all of a sudden everybody started reimagining a different sort of South Africa. It's absolutely pointless putting your head in the sand and pretending that didn't happen. It's clearly visible. It's visible across all of our platforms. It's visible across all of our allies. And it's taken a bit of time, and it has required some patience. And I wish we didn't. In many ways, we've had I can't say we've lost 6 months or 9 months. But that took a bit of a turn that we'd never really expected. Nobody was really anticipating that level of loss in 2021, and suddenly there was this period of time where South Africans were suddenly almost deluded, fixated on coalition government in 2024. And at that point in time, we just had to be patient. Now I'm a numbers guy. I think I may have said to you before, my mother was a maths teacher, and they often look at the movie The Matrix, of all of the numbers coming down the screen, and that's how I see a lot of things in life. So for me, it was instantly apparent that there's no way there's going to be a decent coalition government in 2024. But actually, the main political parties have been very keen to spin that narrative. Obviously, a lot of the metros fell, which are fundamentally different. So people must understand that a metro falling to a coalition government is very, very different to the national government falling. So, because what happens is, if you take, say, Chwani would be a good example. Now, Chwani has a population that is um, less representative of ANC and EFF voters, let me say, than the national average. Not quite the Western Cape, but I mean a greater proportion of minorities and also then urban voters, middle class urban voters. So it was possible in Chwani to create a fairly stable coalition between the DA and the Freedom Front Plus and Action SA, of all parties who are relatively aligned. Obviously, the DA and Action SA are squabbling non-stop, but relatively aligned, and they can create a stable coalition government. But that can happen in Shawani, and it can happen in you know, other places. I can't think of other great examples. The Joburg one isn't quite so stable. But I mean, when you come to a national coalition, it's going to be more like Nelson Mandela Bay, where no coalition government has ever seen out its term. And you can do the maths. In 2019, there was 48 political parties, and uh, I think the DA, the ANC, and the EFF had something like 86% of the vote or 85% of the vote, and the other 45 parties had 15% between them. And those three parties dominate. And actually, there isn't going to be a coalition government that doesn't contain two of those. It's either going to be the ANC and a couple of the little minnows because it falls just below 50%, or it has to be the ANC and the EFF, or the DA and the ANC, or the DA and the EFF. They're the only three choices, and none of those are palatable. And actually, the most dangerous of the lot is the DA EFF one. And I don't think that the DA are saying they won't go into that, but they're saying they won't go into coalition with the EFF. They won't go into coalition with the ANC, but they're going to be in coalition government. But that's mathematically impossible. And they know it's mathematically impossible. They just want to get you invested in the idea of coalition governments. So, we're going to be in this situation where 2024, and I say it, and I've been saying it from the start, and I've been saying it again, is things are going to get worse in 2024, not better. We actually are going to have a far worse government then than we've got now. And I think the penny has started to drop slowly. It started to drop. The election analysts are starting to say, "Hey, look, hang on a second. We've got a bit of data now. I think this is how it's going to play out." And the main political parties, the DA included, are being a little less bold in their predictions for 2024. So in that space, we've just had to be patient and let that narrative catch up and let people start to make that sense. And then, interesting enough, what you're likely to see in 2024 is the Western Cape will clearly not be in the ANC EFF hands. And there's a possibility that Gauteng may fall out of ANC EFF hands. Now, if you start thinking of that, now between the Western Cape and Gauteng, that's half of the South African economy. Now, imagine a scenario where half of the South African economy sits under the opposition parties. Then they want decentralization. They don't want the national government, being in control of the places that they're running. So we end up in this slightly different environment where all of a sudden devolution becomes really, really important. So what do we do? How do we create momentum for the independence movement? Well, we got a choice. We could just keep on talking Cape independence on its own, and that's fine, but probably not very counterproductive in this environment. Or actually to recognise that there are all of these other organisations who want to go 80 or 90% of the journey together with us, and actually we can work together to do that 80 or 90% of the journey, and then when we get to the end we can go our separate ways. And clearly it makes a lot of sense to use this dominant momentum that the DA and other parties around them want to create towards devolution, and to work with them on that to get us much, much nearer to Cape independence. And if we can come out to the end of this process with the right to self-determination for the Western Cape and the referendum bill in place, then I'll be very, very happy, because we'll be a stone's throw away from Cape independence if we can get a government in the Western Cape that wishes to push that. And obviously, the DA have already said that they're willing to allow the people of the Western Cape to make that choice for themselves. And I think at some point we'll clearly need to put some political pressure on them to do that. And there are already plans afoot around that.
Yeah, and speaking of that referendum, I know you alluded to it earlier, but a letter was given to Premier Alan Winde to, hey, where's this legislation on the referendum, and where's that process now? You did a whole march, you gave a letter, and we haven't heard anything since. So what is there any update on that front?
No, well, there's an update. It's not particularly a great one, but it is what it is. So the DA still haven't tabled that bill in Parliament. So they announced they were going to table the bill. They made several promises. The last one, I think, when we spoke the last time, which was around about June or June, I think, and they promised they were going to table the bill in July or August, but they didn't. But that was something that was addressed at the working group, and that's why the referendum legislation is now one of the key areas of focus. So we're hoping to see that addressed fairly quickly. Alan Winde himself, you've probably seen as he is not a fan of Cape Independence, and he's dug his heels in, and he's said some things that have us quite irate. It's fair to say. He was in the provincial legislature about 3 weeks ago. And in fact, we accused him of misleading the House, and we called upon him to retract his statement. So he hasn't. But that's okay. Our comments are on record. He said that if a referendum existed, if a referendum took place, that everybody in South Africa would get to vote, which just is not true, absolutely nonsensical. We challenged him to provide a single international example of that, and when he can't, to apologise for having misled the House. And even more ridiculously, he equated elections with referendums, and he said, "Well, actually, there is a referendum every 5 years, and if you want Cape Independence, then you better vote for it." Uh, Now, look, I don't think Alan is particularly representative of the.
A bit of
Now,
a Joe Biden tendency there.
well, especially given that actually we've reached an accommodation with the DA in the past to not force voters to choose between Cape Independence and the DA. Given that the majority of Cape Independence supporters vote DA, and the majority of DA supporters support Cape Independence, and therefore you have this situation in the Western Cape where forcing people to choose potentially is a lose-lose scenario, where just allowing them to decide for themselves on Cape Independence, as was promised, is a win-win scenario. So, look, in all honesty, that's something we're addressing. I don't think I'm going to go into too many details now, but I don't mean addressing with the DA. I mean something that we have a plan. And if Alan Winde wants us to demonstrate that voters want Cape Independence, then we plan to do that in a quite emphatic way. And we'll let actions speak for themselves. And then we hope that Alan will have a good dose of egg on his face at the end of the thing, and it'll serve him right, quite honestly.
Yeah, but I mean, let's get down to the point, because I think a lot of people are going to be angry about what you've said, because the DA seems to be, in a way, lying or just drawing things out. Do you think they will put this bill in front of Parliament? Do you think maybe Alan Winde will keep to what the DA said about, hey, we'll let our people vote, or Western Cape people, I should say, vote on this referendum? Or do you think this is just politics? Like, do you think it's actually going to happen?
No, look, so I do, and I think it's going to happen on two bases. This was discussed at length in the Western Cape, the working group, and there was a great deal of unhappiness, and not just from the CIAG that the referendum legislation hadn't been called. I think it's key to a lot of people, and we all understand that it's essential. So I think that helps an awful lot. And there was obviously you can see from the press statement the assurances that it's going to be there. Um, and then privately, from the highest levels, we also have had assurances, because I mean it's there's no question that this was supposed to have been tabled a long time ago. People are rightly suspicious. Always suspicious of politicians, and actually, when we've had a scenario where they haven't kept their timetable, people are right to be angry. We're angry. You obviously it doesn't help to throw your toys out the pram. Ultimately, we've got to get the thing brought. But I can say that I've had. Let me just say, I've had personal assurances from the highest levels that the promises that were made will be kept.
All right. Well, as always, we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah,
I gotta admit, it's a rocky start to these promises, but we'll see what happens. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, because we kind of also alluded to this topic a little bit, but I shared earlier in the week, last week, a quote from R.W. Johnson. I'm not going to be able to quote him verbatim, but basically it was a small clip from David Ansar's Solutions with David Ansar, which I believe you've also been a guest on. David asked R.W. Johnson about Cape secession and would it be a thing? Would it happen? And R.W. Johnson gave a very interesting response to that, in a way alluding that the DA might be preparing for an inevitable state collapse, and in a way, secession would happen. Do you think this could be a game plan that is on the table for the DA? Do you feel that they might be, you know, they might have a plan B on in their cards?
yeah. Look, it clearly isn't their first plan. Now they've clearly got national ambitions. But I mean, what you're talking about is de facto secession. In other words, we know it's not a law we pass in Parliament. It just happens, and the Western Cape becomes independent because South Africa really ceases to exist as a functional entity. Um, and clearly, look, I mean, that's happening now. Is the honest answer? It's where does the extent happen? Yeah, where does that stop and where does it start? And I think you're going to have these two processes that meet in the middle. You're going to have the legal form of secession, which I guess is the one that we're primarily pushing, de jure, as they call it, and and de facto is going to come from the other end. So on one hand, you're going to have this sort of top-down approach where where we're pushing for the laws to be changed, and on the other hand, you're going to be taking more and more powers, and as the Western Cape, as the sort of national government becomes less and less functional, then clearly the provincial government is going to step in and take more and more powers. Look, and I think we mustn't underestimate 2024. Um, the question is, what will the DA do if you end up with an ANC EFF coalition who are intent upon changing the South African constitution, implementing some radical form of economic transformation? I strongly suspect that in such circumstances, the DA would be open to much more radical solutions. And I think you should see this whole situation around secession as fairly fluid. Obviously, for the secession organisations, it's simple. For us, we want secession, and we're willing to sort of. But I mean, obviously, we're willing to cooperate and help in terms of devolution, autonomy, and so on, because it's a move in the right direction. And likewise, clearly the organisations like the DA have got a plan A, and that will be for national coalition government. As I say, it's not mathematically possible. If I know that and you know they know that. I mean, at the end of the day, they've got access to more polling information than we have. So that, they're not expecting to have a national coalition government in 2024. Of that, I'm absolutely certain. I think they're just waiting to see how much ground they can make up, and perhaps, if they can fake it before they can make it, then maybe they get enough support to sort of get close to doing something that's significant. But I think they understand very well that the realities are that's not going to be the case, and I think you're going to see them then pushing strongly for powers in the provinces and metros where they do govern, and you've seen that not just in the Western Cape. I mean, you can look at Pretoria, where they were trying to get some the electricity generation project through. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting times. But I think yes, there are circumstances under which the DA will recognise that they have to consolidate or protect the Western Cape, shall we say, and other areas where they govern. But in this context, the Western Cape against a dangerous and unconstitutional South African government, and that is where the right to self-determination is exactly what we all need.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more with that. Look, I think in some ways, the state collapse, or the imminent collapse of the state, with the ANC being in power, is beneficial for the Cape Independence movement in one way or another. It definitely, I mean, even now, where you release this press statement in the midst of the worst load shedding we've ever had in South Africa the past 2 weeks. It's I'm not saying that it was planned. Maybe it was. I don't know. But I mean, it's something that's also going to get people talking, talking more about Cape Independence, because now it's like, well, yeah, I'm sick and tired of this load shedding. We know the DA is making arrangements to hopefully be off the grid in 2 to 3 years. And it's going to get more people talking about policing and all that stuff. I mean, all that stuff from Ian Cameron constantly talking about how bad the crime rates are. And people are getting angry with Cyril, with Bekitele, with the entire ANC government. I've seen recently now, finally, they're admitting that Cyril doesn't have the popularity that he used to. I don't know if that's a politicking or whatever, and how true those numbers are. But my point of all this is that the ANC, I think, see the writing on the wall. They know that maybe they'll hang on in 2024 by like a ball hair, or like you said, have a coalition with smaller groups of parties to get them above 50%. But a lot of the analysts are saying that the ANC will still be in power come 2024. But come 2029, will there be a South Africa to save? And I do think on some level the DA sees this as well. They're not stupid, and are making arrangements as a backup plan. Okay, well, things are going to go to crap. Let's make sure that we can save some parts of South Africa. I'm going to go a bit to the questions, if you don't mind, Phil, unless you want to say something to what I just said.
I'm just going to say one thing, and I think that is let's look. I think in general the DA have done a pretty good job, but let's remember they're not going to be driving this. And we're not passengers in the process. The people of the Western Cape are not passengers in the process, and there are other political parties involved in the working group, in the independence movement. And as I say, this self-determination bill is coming. We don't yet know whether it's going to be a multi-party thing, or it's going to be a single party, but it's coming. And that's going to put if the DA don't support it, it's going to put them in a very, very difficult situation, because you're going to have this situation where the DA formally is a federal party, and they're effectively either going to have to support this bill or vote against their own principles, and that's not going to be an easy situation to be in. So we mustn't just think that we're sitting here at the mercy of the DA. We're not. Clearly they're the power broker in this whole situation, and they hold the whip hand. But I mean, we absolutely have the power to influence them and to force their hand on many issues, that's absolutely what we intend to do on the issue of self-determination, and run up in 2024. We certainly don't intend to be lame ducks sitting around to see if we end up with an ANC EFF coalition. Anything but.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, you mentioned it, and I think R.W. Johnson also mentioned it in the interview that if there was an ANC and EFF coalition, I think the DA would quickly change their tune and be like, "We want out. We want our own country." So, and I think, and you know what? I think KZN would also follow suit with that. So, but let's get to some of the questions. There's actually a lot of questions coming through. So thank you guys so much for giving these questions. All right, so I've got a question here from L My Five Pence. Some of the names are very interesting on YouTube. Ask Phil, will include the NC? Okay, so I think what the question is will the Cape Independence include Northern Cape as part of the Cape? I think that's the question.
Yeah, so look, it's a question we get asked a lot. Ultimately, it's not our decision. Yeah, the boundaries of the Cape will be based on the democratic will of the Western Cape people, or of the Cape people. But I do expect in the end of the process that large parts of the Northern Cape would be involved in it, would be included in Independent Cape. And I think what's likely to happen is the legal process is going to focus on the Western Cape initially. I think it has to. It's obviously clearly it's the only province that doesn't vote DA. And therefore, then we have this. We already have a voters' roll. We've got a provincial government. We've got a provincial border, and it makes all the sense in the world then to focus on the Western Cape to get to the referendum status. But let's imagine a scenario where we've had a referendum and the Western Cape has voted to secede, and now you're going to the process of negotiations between the Western Cape government and the national government. Clearly, there's that. Yeah, that's going to be a massive restructuring of South Africa. And at that point in time, huge amounts of things are going to happen. I mean, it's going to kick off the breakup of South Africa anyway. As you say, groups like the Zulus are almost certainly going to come with Me Too, but specifically in terms of the Northern Cape and parts of the Eastern Cape, there are large swathes of the Northern Cape and smaller sections of the Eastern Cape which abut onto the Western Cape, which also traditionally reject the ANC and the EFF. And undoubtedly, they're going to say, well, look, if you're going to draw a border, we want to be on that side of the border. We want to be in the Independent Cape rather than in South Africa. And I would expect to see then additional referendums at probably at municipal level to allow these groups, I guess municipality by municipality, to see where the border is defined. And almost certainly at the end of the process, that would include parts of the Eastern Cape and much larger parts of the Northern Cape. So that would be my prediction.
All right, cool. This is Tertia Moritz asking any prediction on how long it could take. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and look, it's a tough one. Yeah, you guess and you want to be optimistic, and actually we've probably been over optimistic in the start in terms of where we get to. Look, I think the referendum legislation should be tabled fairly quickly now. I would hope in the next 3 or 4 months will be a reasonable guess. Um, uh, and then let's see where we go from there. If we can get the referendum bill, fun enough, will be not the referendum. The self determination bill will be a provincial bill. So if we do get the DA behind that, then it can be passed very quickly in the provincial legislature. So I would love to certainly get the legislation in place long before 2024, so that we go into it. And interestingly enough, if we can get the self-determination bill passed, then one of the things with self-determination is you acquire the right or the justification. Let's not say right; that probably is untrue. You acquire the legal justification to act unilaterally. So what starts to happen? So now imagine a scenario where you have that bill passed, even though it's just provincially, and you do end up with an ANC, EFF, RET coalition government, and they decide no, they're going to do away with property rights. Then the Western Cape at that point would be quite justified to say, well, not here, and start to make decisions that are fundamentally different. From the rest of the country, so that bill becomes really quite important. So I think the 2024 is a really pivotal moment in everything, and I think there's too many moving parts to tie those down. interesting. One of the things that I've talked about several times, including with some quite senior characters who haven't cottoned on. Actually, they people tend to get horrified at this notion of the Western Cape acting unilaterally, and you have to point out to them. That they're already doing it, and the most brazen act that the Western Cape government has done so far was to ban Russian diplomats from Western Cape embassies and premises, and invite the Ukrainian ambassador into Alan Windy and to engage with them over the war. Now that is completely unconstitutional, borders on being treasonous. And it's actually it's one of the four. There are four characteristics of a country: a border, a population, um, a political authority, and the ability to conduct foreign relations with another country. So actually, there are, under no circumstances does the Western Cape have the authority to enact in foreign relations in defiance of its national government, but it did it. It did it, and what happened? Absolutely nothing. The Russian dignitaries were banned. The Ukrainian people did come in. The Cape Town hall was swathed in the colours of the Ukrainian flag. And irrelevant of whatever you may think or not think of the politics around that war, it just shows that where the will is to act unilaterally, it can be done. And once you have that justification, so 2024 is a very, very pivotal moment.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I didn't know it was treasonous, so that's interesting. I hope the ANC doesn't watch this because I don't think they even know. But all right,
Look, I'm using the word treasonous. I perhaps glibly, but it certainly is complete defiance of the national, let's say, unconstitutional.
yeah. All right. So there's a lot more questions to get through here, which again, I'm glad you guys are sending in the question. I'm going to try and get to all of them as much as I can. I'm just getting to some of them that I've already marked here, and I want to. Worldview is watching, so thank you so much. I think his name is Donald, if I'm not mistaken, for watching, and I'm gonna get to your questions in a moment. I just want to pop up a few of these that I think this one's gonna be a quick answer. So, did the British government ever respond to the letter Robert King delivered to Boris's office?
Not to the best of my knowledge. It would have gone to an address in the UK, actually. So no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Which is a shame, but yeah. Well, I probably would have thought we'd have got a recognition,
Yeah.
but I haven't received it yet. Maybe it's sitting somewhere in the UK.
All right. And then Stephen Bain asks, before a referendum, we need to educate people because there are hundreds and thousands of Cape Townians that have still not heard of and what the future will look like under Cape Independence? Question mark. I'm not sure if it's a question, but I mean, do you have anything to say about that?
No, I agree with him. Look, awareness is clearly an issue, and it's something that we work hard on. But there's a lot more work to be done, and yeah, I think it becomes a incremental anyway. So it's one of those things we definitely have to do. But things like, for example, once we start to get towards a referendum, and a referendum, for argument's called, you start to create its own momentum too. But we're working with all of the independence groups, and it's always a challenge to create awareness. The CIAG is a political lobby group, so awareness isn't our first primary goal. Organisations like Cape Exit are much more grassroots orientated, but it is something that we definitely have to do. I agree.
And I would agree with that too. And I'm sure in time, more and more people will be hearing about the benefits of Cape secession. Look, definitely more people are talking about it now than ever before, so that's a good thing. Then Andreas, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, sorry. Joe, please ask Phil why he left out or did not invite the Cape Independence Group to join the Devolution Coalition. Now, I don't know of a group that's called Cape Independence Group. Cape Independence Party is part of it, so I'm not sure if this, unless you know of a group that is called that, or is he talking about Cape exit?
No, look. I know Andreas. He's a he's an interesting character. We've had some good times and we've had some bad times. He's welcome to contact me privately, and I'll chat to him about that. I'm not going to answer it on air.
Okay, fair enough. And then Conrad says, when we secede, the national debt will stay with South Africa, yes? We can argue that the Cape also paid our percentage of infrastructure for the other provinces.
Look, look, clearly something has to be negotiated, but the norm would be that we would take our fair share with us. So I think and clearly, yeah, money's always going to be an issue, and you wouldn't want to hamper the negotiations by yeah, being overly hard on the finances. I think probably one of the things that we can offer South Africa is a relatively good settlement deal on financial deal. And I think our freedom is worth much more than the sort of last cents and so on. But in principle, you would have an equitable agreement. So we would take a share of the assets, we take a share of the debt, and that would only be reasonable.
Cool. I think that's a fair answer, and that makes sense. So I'm going to pop up this first question, which I think is a bit of an inside joke between the two of you, Donald and yourself. I know you've been on Donald's channel a few times. So has Phil ever researched how to hack a database or contacted an expert on how to hack a database?
No, not yet.
I knew that was an inside joke.
Somebody is just doubling down on security at Cape Exit for their database. We are trying to look. We have been trying, and I don't mind saying it. For us, there's a look. We love the people at Cape Exit, and we think they're great, and they've done this phenomenal feat of getting this big database built up. Effectively, all of these people that have signed up for their mandates. But we really want them to start deploying those people politically, sometimes it's a bit frustrating. Cape Exit are often the first to sort of complain that the DA aren't playing ball. But we obviously tend, there's a slight frustration for that in terms of, one in two Western Cape voters have their names and addresses on the Cape Exit database. And we would love to Cape Exit to actually deploy those politically, but it's a bit of a sensitive point, and ultimately it's their database and they must deploy it how they see fit. But for us, it's slightly frustrating because I think that would deliver huge momentum to the Cape Independence movement, and I think it's slightly frustrating that we kind of we're sort of fighting with one hand tied behind our back. But there you go, it's their choice.
Their choice. All right, so I have to address this one because it's a super chat. So thank you so much, Rosalind Gerber, for the super chat. 35 Rand super chat sent in. Thank you so much. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. And he asks, or she asks, sorry, can Mr. Craig please comment on his thoughts on WEF interference in the secession movement? I have no idea what this person's talking about.
Well, and to a certain extent, neither do I. Look, I'm not a conspiracist, I have to say. I'm aware of the World Economic Forum (WEF), and I'm sort of broadly aware of some of these conspiracies. I don't put an awful lot of faith in them myself, and at this point in time, certainly I don't think anybody's interfered in and I include actually, in fairness, the ANC too. At no point have I felt interfered with or threatened, or and obviously we're pretty open in terms of what we're doing. So I have to say. No, haven't really had any issues. There probably are. There are people in the movement who are. Perhaps I'm naive. I'm a very trusting soul, and I believe in Occam's razor. And fool me once, shame on you, and fool me twice, shame on me. So that's how I tend to live my life. But no, I don't. I'm certainly not aware of anything. let's leave it at that. Yeah.
All right. And then more questions from Worldview 2.0. Let's see, which one do I want to start? Because there's two questions which I think are very good questions. I think I'll start with this one. Is the Cape Independence Party heading in the right direction?
Well, I'm not quite sure which direction they're heading in at the moment. So, look, I think there's some very good people at the Cape Independence Party who are keen to who are keen to make progress and are willing to engage. So I don't know is the honest answer. I think clearly they've been you know, from my perspective, that that they haven't performed terribly well in previous elections, and I would really like them to perform better. We have got a project ongoing that's likely to involve them, and we'll see. What I can be very honest is I think the Cape Independence Party get their messaging wrong, and I think they tend to sort of be a bit of a fringe party with messages that probably don't appeal to the mainstream market. And I think as an independence party, they should really just be a single issue party and not get involved in all of the stuff around the fringes. And I think more than that, I think one of the things that I wish the Cape Independence Party would do, or if I was running the Cape Independence Party, let's say it that way, is I think they should target DA voters much more aggressively than they do. And I think come 2024, their best strategy would be to try and get people who are going to vote DA nationally to vote Cape Independence Party provincially. And I think that would require a slightly different approach to the one they've got, where they tend to be quite antagonistic to the DA, and you're not going to get people who are loyal DA voters to sort of to vote for you tactically, shall we say, if actually you're always insulting the party that those people are really loyal to. So I would like to see but I mean that's just my own personal opinion, and ultimately it's running a political party is not an easy thing to do, and I take my hat off to those people that do it, and there's a lot of great people inside of the Cape Independence Party.
Agreed. Look, I think Jack is a great guy. So anyway, Rosalind Herbert just gave a comment that I wanted to bring up to you. He says, WEF is not a conspiracy. You will own nothing and be happy. It's a global movement. I can assist if you wish. So just putting it out there, offering his assistance there. And then, okay, so Donald, once again, I love this. He says, does Phil think people should like and subscribe and share this video if they like the content? Well, I'll answer that. Yes.
Of course Phil does.
But I think the last question from Donald is, does the Western Cape need a new party that is like the DA, but pro-independence, and should Ian Cameron lead this party? I say yes to that, but I don't know if Ian Cameron would go into politics, but I don't think he would. But if that was going to be a thing, I'd vote for that party just on the basis of Ian Cameron.
And well, Ian is part of the working group, by the way.
Yes, Action Society, obviously. Yeah. So, but but what do you think? Do you think there should be another party that is like the DA?
I think there must. So. I think logically speaking, there should be at least two independence parties. One is the Freedom Front Plus, who I think could do a fantastic job at mopping up people, disaffected DA voters, and I think there needs to be a corresponding party that mops up loyal DA voters and can get them to protest vote for Cape Independence in exactly the way that the Brexit Party did to Conservative Party voters in the UK. And then I think it's up to the Cape Independence Party to decide whether it's going to fulfil that role, and if it's not, then we need a party that is going to fulfil that role. So I think that ball's in their court.
Okay, fair enough. And then once again, Andre giving a 80 Rand super chat. So I do have to address the comment. He says, and thank you, by the way, for the 80 Rand super chat. It's greatly appreciated. Goes a long way to supporting the channel. The Cape Independence Group has a combined membership between group and pages of 80,000 plus members. I would like to know publicly why we were not invited. Thanks.
Well, I'm not going to tell you publicly. I think he knows perfectly well why he wasn't invited, but he's happy to have it to chat to me. And I look at the end of the day, Andre and I have had our ups and downs, and I think his heart's absolutely in the right place.
Yeah.
So, but,
Hey, look, I bring the questions. I can't force my guest to answer them. That's not how this channel works. So, but thanks anyway, both Andre and I believe the name was Rosalind for the super chats, or as we call them on this channel, salsa chats. It is greatly appreciated. Apparently, I missed a question. I'm sorry. Can you please copy and paste once again your question very quickly as we're about to end. We have just under 5 minutes left of the show, and I will pop it up. Sorry. But anyway, Phil, as we get the questions coming in, hold on, there is a question here, but it's from one of my trolls, so I don't know if I necessarily want to put it up. No, I'm not going to put that question up. All right, so I wanted to just ask you very quickly, Phil, is there anything else you wanted to mention on the show? Any other updates you want to give very quickly about the independence movement, other than what we've already discussed?
No, look, I don't think so. Look, just to reassure people that it's been in many ways it's been a different year, but please don't give up hope. Things are going well. Actually, interestingly enough, we had a big strategy session on Saturday where all of the independence groups were present, and that was a really productive day. And we'll see what comes of that. We've we've got a couple of key bits of legislation that we're closing in on getting passed, and we've got another little project on the go that I'll talk more about later. So, but things are really starting to move in the right direction, and I think look, and as we get closer and closer to 2024, I think the movement for Cape Independence is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger as people realise what's at stake. So look, we really appreciate people's patience, I should say. We understand their frustrations because they want things to happen quicker. We desperately want them to happen quicker too. All I would say to people is look, the best way that you can get things to happen quicker is to get involved. Get involved with one of the organisations, the more momentum we can create around this, the quicker that it'll happen. Because ultimately, we're going to have to force the Western Cape government to act in the way that we want them to act, and that's going to take a concerted effort.
Fair enough. So I will ask this question because Matthew, my resident troll, said it's a serious question, and I'll trust him on this one. If the referendum occur, will Phil want a national vote or stick to a provincial vote? That Western Cape is still part of the national public, therefore of national interest. I know the answer to that, but Phil, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, look, it's a provincial vote all the way. Look, it's self-determination, and the key word in self-determination is self. You can't have other people making decisions for you. The Western Cape must decide for itself. Clearly, there's huge precedent. There isn't a case in the world where independence referendums took place with people who weren't part of the region that was seceding. It's always the seceding territory that votes. It can't be any other way.
Yeah.
And nor should it be. Yeah.
Exactly. So in other words, Western Cape will vote for Western Cape. What if someone has a holiday home in the Western Cape and lives in any other province? Could they maybe, travel to the Western Cape, cast their vote, move back? Does that work?
Well, look, I think so. So, look, the rules of the referendum will have to be set and have to be agreed, there will be all sorts of things that will have to be considered, and clearly there'll have to be a criteria. Around who is eligible to vote or not, and that may well be different to in a general election. Obviously, in a normal election, then people can only be in one province at a time, so that kind of keeps it honest. Clearly, you can't have a scenario where every Tom, Dick, and Harry decides to register in the Western Cape to try and influence the election. So there'll clearly have to be some criteria. around residency. What that is will have to be determined. And interestingly, under international law, there's some real extreme examples, which I'm not going to go into. But yeah, there's quite a lot of case law around this, and clearly, one of the key things that the Western Cape government will have to do when it calls a referendum is ensure that it's representative of the Western Cape people, and only the Western Cape people, and not other people who don't have a right to vote, and certainly that would be people who obviously wanted to just come for the purpose of spoiling the referendum is not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know as well. All right, so very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I have three more questions, and that's it. So, because I do have to cut it off, we're going to go over time now. So, I did get the question back from the person who said that I missed their question. Will the cancelled meeting in Swartland be rescheduled? People need to know their options. Robert King did address this and said, I think the Swartland event relates to Cape Exit, not the CIAG. But as far as I know, it is rescheduled. Phil, you can give a comment if you wish.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, so it's not a CIAG event.
Okay, there we go. And then finally, and this is just to end on a bit of another laugh, is the rumor true that Phil Craig met his MI6 handler at a Jack Miller High School reunion? This has got to be an inside joke. I don't know about this.
No. I met him when I was at Eton with Boris Johnson.
Of course. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to conclude my time with my guest, Phil Craig from Cape Independence Advocacy Group. Phil, thank you so much once again for joining, ladies and gentlemen. Phil's Twitter is in the description, as well as Cape Independence Advocacy Group website, and Twitter is also in the description. Please give them a follow and check out the website. Please go check out the website. Is there anything people can fill in on the website? Can people still register, or do you still have that going?
Sure. So we put out a newsletter every month with news. So if people want to keep updated, then they can just fill out the registration form on the thing on the website, and then they'll get a monthly emailed newsletter each month, giving you the latest news on Cape Independence.
Fantastic. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Phil Craig, once again, thank you so much for your time. Great conversation, and we'll have you back soon, I'm sure.
Cool. All right. Cheers, Joe. Thank you. Pleasure to be with you again.
Cheers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Phil Craig, once again, from Cape Independence Advocacy Group. I think things are looking good for Cape Independence, no matter which way you want to look at it, devolution, or whether the state will fail, or what have you. I think Cape Independence is strong. And the more we talk about it, the more we openly talk about it, the more the idea will spread. So please, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this show, you can share it. However, bear in mind, I will be uploading just the hour-long conversation with Phil on this channel probably tomorrow, so you guys can share that, and that way people don't have to watch a 2-hour show. They can just watch the 1-hour show. So that will be uploaded tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. So please look out for that. Share it far and wide and let people know what is happening in the Cape. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, thank you all so much for the questions that came in. I thought they were riveting. I thought they were exciting. And thank you all so much for the super chats as well, or the sausage chats that were given. Thank you. Thank you so much for the sausage chats. It really does go a long way to supporting the channel. Even Cyril Ramosaurus says thanks for the sausage chats. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and ladies and gentlemen, I will see you on Thursday for Comedians Roast the Headlines. It's going to be a fun one, so I cannot wait for that show. Once again, Thursday evening, ladies and gentlemen, Comedians Roast the Headlines. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your week, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks once again for tuning in, and I will see you again. Stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.